In this video I'm going to be building a Nintendo DS Lite from scratch with spare parts that I have. I hope you enjoy. Good morning, good afternoon and good evening YouTube. What's going on? It's your boy Joey Does Tech and welcome yourselves back to a brand new video. So I've got a load of different parts for Nintendo DS Lites and most of the motherboards I have are just laying around in the open collecting dust, so I thought, you know what? Let's just try and make a couple of combinations of different DS Lites. It's pretty much starting from scratch, literally with motherboard and loads of different parts that I'm going to be using. Some of them are original manufactured, others are aftermarket, so I thought it would be a good opportunity for you guys if I just kind of talk through it. Maybe it's going to help somebody out there who's looking to do some mods or shell swaps or repairs to Nintendo DS Lites. Without further ado, and enough of my jibber jabber, let's get into it. Knife, top and bottom shell, screwdriver set, motherboard, top screen, bottom screen, buttons, screws, ceramic tweezers. This is, I think, all I'm going to need to build a Nintendo DS Lite. So all the times I've actually played around with Nintendo DS Lites, I've never built one from backwards. I've always taken one out of a shell and swapped it into a new shell, or vice versa. Can I vice versa that? Does that make sense? So hopefully I'm actually going to be able to do this. It could end up freakishly wrong, but that's the whole point of the channel. So the best place to start and mess up on is truly going to be the top, right? The top screen. We need to make sure that this is all rigged in correctly before we can even think about moving on to the bottom. So let's get this apart. We're going to take this plastic piece here. We're going to take our top screen component. The first thing we're going to do is nicely, actually what we do need is a mic and an antenna for this. There's our antenna and there's our microphone. Out of our spare parts box. Now I always kind of forget what's the best way to do that. I'm trying to think at the top of my head, like what is the best way to do this. I think if I just drop this in, then we're going to have issues. I'm pretty sure we go antenna first, you know. I'm pretty sure antenna goes in like this and then just wraps down. Like that. Be very, very careful with the ribbon wire. Whenever you're working with these top screens, the ribbon wire is the worst thing. So have to be so careful, they're extremely sensitive. I'm just going to slowly lift up the screen. The screen's not actually in place yet. Just want to make sure I get it all routed correctly. And we can do that by tucking the wire underneath the screen where the sellotape is. Placing the speaker into the holding bit like so. Should be okay. Now this is actually an aftermarket shell, so it might not fit as snug as what OEM would. So yeah, putting this together is probably the biggest pain. I always think just get the antenna bit in first because that's going to be the most complicated bit. Just put it down here like that. Got to manage to squeeze it through. See how we've done that? Hopefully you can see on the camera. Just roll it through. And then actually before we move on, whilst that's in its little curl as it is, we need this, which is a circular, it's not magnetic, was it? Just metal that just kind of forms around it. So that's come through now, which is good. Push the wire, see this, got the antenna wire, that goes through. And we've also, sorry that was the microphone wire, then we've also got the antenna wire which can go through now. Hook it down here, through the gap, that can just come through as well. So we have the two wires exposed. Then you have to put this little metal clip. And we've got the metal circular ring which goes around here. We just need to wrap this around the wires. So that's that bit all nice and tucked in with all the wires that we need tucked in as well. Now I do a better job of explaining that on different videos. That's probably one of the most intricate bits of the whole process, is sorting the ribbon cable out with the speakers, etc. So I will put a link to videos in the description that would maybe explain that a bit better and more close up. That part's done. We just need to tuck these wires in properly and make sure that we get them the best we can and get the screen put in properly as well. So there's going to be quite a lot of clicking. You're going to hear now, click, click, click. It seems to fit pretty good. W's on the back of this screen because it stands for working. We hope. Not yet confirmed. You just have to make sure these wires are tucked as much as you can because I think it actually plays a part to when you try and close up on the DS. So just be really, really careful. Try and tuck them in. Let's see how much that actually plays up. Right, let's put the top casing on. So I've not really tucked the wires in properly, and you can see how at the bottom here they're stopping the top from closing. So what we need to do is, again, just take it apart real quick. Just make sure that we tuck those wires in properly. We try again now. I've tucked them in properly. Simple stuff like that, just making sure that the wires are all tucked in properly is going to make the difference between like seeing a gap here and not seeing a gap. So just try and make sure that you keep the wires as tidy as possible. But there we go, that's the top side done. Lovely. Just going to put the screws in. So in our bag of screws we are going to be looking for 4 small Phillips, because this is, like I said before, an aftermarket shell. So we need 4 small Phillips, and I'm assuming it's going to be these little gold ones here. And we'll obviously need a Phillips screwdriver. The specific Phillips head I'm going to be using for this is 00. Especially with aftermarket shells, you have to be so incredibly careful how tight you're screwing. And I'm only going to screw until I feel a little bit of resistance, because you can thread the screws so easily. And that's how you sort out the top half. Lovely. Now ideally at this point you want to try and sort out the hinge, because that can be an absolute pain, especially in aftermarket shells. For some reason that's the biggest issue that I have when working with these. So this is the hinge that I've been provided with for the aftermarket shell. Now one thing you have to bear in mind is that this isn't the actual physical mechanical hinge, this is simply the bit of plastic which displays on and off, but this sits right here. What you need is, if I go to my boxer hinges, look at this, look how organised we are. What you actually need is a hinge itself, which is this. This is the actual hinge which allows you to fold your DS in half. Now the way you want to do this, ideally, is try and line it up as best you can, but you want to have the silver bit poking on the outside and the black bit going into the inside. So, as I said, try and line it up as best you can. Now pliers can be your best friend at times. There we go, you see, I've just popped that in there and you've got the little metal bit that's sticking out, and then we should be able to get the hinge itself, just have it on like that, there we go. Okay, now that we have the hinge on, we're going to focus on getting this ribbon cable through the chassis of the bottom side, which again is a little bit of a fiddly bit. So the best way I can describe this is you take your chassis, you take your ribbon cable and you put it in at an angle to try and help you, and then, I don't know if you guys saw that actually at all, and then feed the antenna wire and the microphone wire through as well. You can do that before if that's easier, but for me I find just putting the ribbon cable in first easier, followed by the cables themselves. Just pull these through, there's one, there's two. And then you just simply clip that together, fold this over, and you've got the ribbon cable come through. And now the fun bit, which is you attach the hinge. So the plastic hinge this time, grab this, line it up properly, make sure that we're all comfy, turn her over, and we should have been provided with some screws for the hinge, which I think is these black ones here. I'll show you in a sec. Yep, because they're evidently, these ones are so much longer than, say, the standard ones that actually go into the back of the DS. So much longer. Again, these are Phillips, so I've lined that up nicely. One through here. Now these need to be relatively tight because they're for the hinge, but again, just until I feel a little bit of resistance, then I'm going to test it. So that's gone in. That one's gone in as well, a little bit of resistance. That one's tight enough, and then we should have a working hinge. There we go, see? A nice working hinge. It's not recommended that you do it just with the plastic because obviously this plastic isn't very well weighted at the bottom, but yeah, there we have it. Hinge is all good by the looks of it. So far so good. We will give this a decent clean afterwards. Now we have the motherboard. The motherboard clips onto the bottom of where this ribbon cable is. We don't have the screen attached just yet. Do I do that now? No, wait. Yeah, I'll do that now actually. Let's get the screen. So this is the bottom screen that I have, that I have cleaned a little bit. We've got the Digitizer. It's got a W on the back, so I would assume that Smart Joey would believe this is working. Moment of truth to find out it's actually not. So how are we going to do this? Quite simple. The ribbon cable slot on the motherboard. Join this one up with it. and it will just slot in like that. Now I take ceramic tweezers, but you can wriggle it in. But I find ceramic tweezers being the best way to just secure it. I learned that from Elliot, aka the Retro Future. And then I use the front of my nail. I just push. For me, that's the easiest way to do it. So I get the front of my nail and just push it along. But you can. There are other ways to do it. And then we need to do the one on the back as well. So there is the Digitizer ribbon cable. You see at the back here. Now this one is the little bit more complicated one. So let me just see if I can get properly zoomed in. That might be a bit better for you. So we'll move it across a little bit. So you can see on this motherboard how this clip's already up. There we go, that should be secure. We hope, we pray, we work all day. I don't know where that's come from. Again, arguably, depending on who you are and what you fancy, again, the hardest part. Grab the ribbon cable from this top shell here, and this is where we're going to connect the top screen ribbon cable to the bottom. Make sure this is pried up. Now I find it simply easiest to push it down with my thumb and just wiggle it in a little bit. Just make sure you get the angle right. Then I like to pick up the board, rotate this down and push on the ribbon cable ever so gently, and just make sure that it's in properly. Now I'll go to inspect that. I think we look okay. Same kind of technique. Thumb. There we go. It looks all secure. I'm just going to take a quick closer look at that real quick. Here we look okay. You could maybe argue that the top side isn't in quite enough, but we'll find out. Now we slightly have the fun parts. I'm going to test to make sure that the bottom screen and the top screen actually work. I've done that just by flipping this over for 2 seconds, and then we're going to push down and wriggle it around a little bit. Then we grab a battery, again from our box of batteries that we have. Which one are we going to take today? We'll take this one. I'm assuming it's good. I don't know if this is a known working battery or not. There we go. Flip it around. Now the motherboard's not in, so I need to be super careful when doing this. Actually, do you know what? No, we're going to be smarter than that. I'm actually going to put a screw in the motherboard to make sure. So I'd recommend you do the same if you do attempt this. The smallest screw in the pack that you get will be for the motherboard screw. Because if you do that with any longer screw, it will come through the other side and you won't have a great looking DS because there'll be a screw coming through when you're playing Mario or something. Okay, so that's held in with a screw. I'm going to grab a battery real quick like I said. Moment of truth, do we work? Yes or no? How's your day? Gucci. As you can see, where I've messed up here is I've put the sticker for the outside, I've put it a little bit too high, so I'm going to take that off and I'm going to put it down a little bit and then probably use some adhesive to stick that down properly. Let me just check actually one thing. Just want to make sure the digitizer and the touchscreen works on this bottom screen before I start messing around with that. Yeah, we're fine. Lovely. Okay, so back to unscrewing this. We'll take this apart. You've seen this on other videos of mine. You push from the bottom, okay? Because then that way you're not going to damage the screen at all. This isn't, it's not stuck down because I didn't want to stick it down just in case I was a bit too hard. But I was a little bit scared that I was anyway. So we need to move this down a tad. And I'm going to use some adhesive to keep it down. Or double-sided sticky tape is also really good. So actually, you do get provided, in most of them, double-sided sticky tape. But I don't have it in this one. So I'm going to use some of my own. So I'm actually going to use this strip I've got here, which makes sense because it should be around about the same thickness as the screen, which is a win-win. So from my calculations, I need to make sure that I cover this silver bit at the bottom and then we are perfect. I think that's a lot better than what it was. Should we double check? This is probably the hardest bit for me, I think. I've changed from ribbon cable to screen positioning. Look at that, you see the little bit at the top that we got loose? God dang it. Yeah, it needs to go up a little bit. It needs to go up a tiny bit. We'll get there, I promise. My best tool for this is probably going to be my trusty old metal prying tool. I feel like that's around about perfect. And if not, Christ, I'm going to have a fallout. I'm not sticking it back down properly again. Just going to see what's going on. How do we look now? Do we look better? I think it needs to come down a little bit more. Jesus. I didn't have to put it this perfect last time. Maybe I just got really, really lucky last time. Now I think to a lot of people it probably wouldn't annoy them that much, but I mean, yeah, that's going to really annoy me. That'll do. Now we can start rerouting the cables, etc. So you're going to have to sort out these two cables, right? So they both need to go around and up. So both need to stick out of the top of the DS. Now it's probably best that you actually flip this over for the white cable. Let me just show you what goes on with that. So with the white cable, again I'm going to try and show you the best example as I can. The white cable, you want to try and get it in between everything on the grooves. So you can see grooves just in the top here and stuff, right? That's where you're going to want to get this cable to go. And it's going to poke up and just simply slot in to one of the buttons on the motherboard. I'm pretty sure it's how it should look. It should go around this bit here, like so, I'm pretty sure. I wonder actually, there's no reason why I couldn't go in here. I think it can go around there. We're about to find out if it closes probably or not. And then if we flip this back over, so the white one should just plug into this bit around here, like so. Have a bit of a play around with the white wire. Now the reason I say this is because the reason why your DS might not shut properly is most probably going to be because of the wiring of these two wires, the black wire and the white wire. That's where I put my money. Now people find this bit really frustrating and you just have to be super patient with it. You have to straighten the wire as much as you can. This wire feeds under the game cartridge slot and it's going to take you a while to get this through. Now I've said on previous videos, if you can do something like this straight away, you should get yourself on Takeshi's Castle. Even myself now, after doing a couple of these Nintendo DS Lites, I feel the pain. That was probably my 7th or 8th try, I think, of trying to get it done. So it still takes me quite a while. The first time I done it, it probably took me a good 15 minutes of wriggling to try and get it back in the correct position. So that's all good. That's all secure. The next part is personal preference. What you can do is, now that I've done the board and stuff, which is good, we just need to be super careful that you don't take out any of the wires or anything. I like to just prop this up and put the buttons back, but if you're quite newly experienced, you'd want to do that before you sort all the cables out. It's completely up to you. Now I need to grab some membranes as well. Okay, we're looking pretty clean. And now we grab the motherboard screw, put that in, there we go. We look alright, we look alright. So now we're going to do the R and the L triggers, which are fairly easy once you, again, get used to it. Ah, see, there I've made a mistake. So you see where I put the white, just as I'm about to go put the triggers in, you see where I've put the white cable through? That's why it doesn't go through there, because that's where the triggers go for the R and the L. Now I could continue doing that the lazy way, but I'm not going to risk it, so I'm just going to take the screw out of the motherboard. As long as it doesn't get in the way of the spring of the R button, you're absolutely fine. So the way to do these triggers can be pretty complicated on the first time you do it. So you've got this this little bar, which essentially goes inside the hole here. But what you need to do is get your trigger, your bar, and you've also got a spring. This spring is obviously what makes it click in and out. Oh, you can't really see it, sorry. That spring, that's the bar, and then that's the trigger itself. This spring here is what makes it resist, so you get that clicky feel. Now I believe the way the spring's meant to go is that you're meant to have the spring on the bottom side. And what I mean by bottom side is that if we have, what one can I use as an example? So for this side, as you can see here, we've got the spring. Now that spring is going to be on the bottom, so when it turns in and curls, it's bending that way. So I'm going to line this up with this. I'm pretty sure there's an easier way to do this, so correct me if I'm wrong. And then you put the metal bar in between. There we go, once you get the bar in, you have this effect. So once the bar's in, you're going to have it looking like this. See that? And then you're simply just going to place it where the button is. You're going to push down on the bar so the bar's nice and secure. Or the better way is to rotate it like this, push it down. So, I'm sorry, I'm blocking the light there, aren't I? So push it down, so I've rotated it. I've put the spring down in here, and I'm just going to turn this around now and put it in place. Boom. There we go, and there's your clickiness. And I'll do the same for the other side as well, just to give you guys an idea of how it looks. That's how it looks. See? And then get rid of any excess hair that your cats might leave on it. And just rotate it around, and then you're done. Now I do like to just push the spring down to make sure that it's wedged in there enough, like so it doesn't fling out at any point. But there we go, that's that done. Two fairly important parts that I'm going to mention here. With the Nintendo DS Lite, you've got the volume button down here, the volume slider. You're going to make sure this is all the way to the left when you're putting the slider back into the case. And what I mean by that is, if I take our top case in here, this is what we're going to place onto the Nintendo DS Lite next. You've got your volume slider, which, like I said, is going to replicate being all the way to the left. So when you put it into the shell, which you should just be able to click in, like so. You're going to have it all the way to the left. So again, what I mean by that is that the volume button is all the way to the left, and obviously the power button is all the way down as well. Make sure it's that. Okay, here we go. Moment of truth. Ready? Does everything fit snug is the question. Are we looking okay? We're looking alright. Nice. Okay, everything fits snug. We've got the power button, the sound button. There's a little bit of a gap here. Remember, like I said, it could probably be the wires, which I've got a feeling it's going to be the white wire here, but it's not. That's not horrendous, I guess. And now we just put the screws in and test. One thing I will quickly mention that I've just realised with this, there is no graphite circular majiggy thing that goes in here. What I mean by that is when you put the battery clip, when you put the battery in and then you put a battery clip on top, there should be something for the battery clip to screw into. That's not in here, and usually it's a small little grey thing that isn't in the new case, and a lot of the new shells don't actually have them in. So luckily I have a spare, but you might need to drag that over from your other Nintendo DS Lite, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about when I find it. Here it is. So you see this little small graphite thing that goes into this area on the Nintendo DS Lite. So I quickly need to take the shell out and put that in. I didn't realise it wasn't there. There's a little compartment down here that you slide it into, and try and see if I can get this on camera, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. Slides in like that. So now if I turn this around, you got it here. See that? Now that's the metal thing that the battery compartment screws into. Again, make sure that's left, that's down, that's left, that's down, and then. Now before we do any, I don't know, screw putting back in, if that, well, English, I'm going to test with a battery. So grab our battery, bosh, turn it over, open her up, look at that. So I'm really happy with how the screen has turned out around here, because I know that it was looking a little bit iffy earlier. Now that's sorted. Turn it on. All the buttons work. Touchscreen works fine. Now I'm actually missing one screw, so I've had to take a screw out of my set. But I say I'm missing one. I'm actually missing quite a few. I'm missing the battery screws. They didn't seem to include that, as well as a couple of others. So it's not great. There we go. Screws in nicely. Does she turn on? Does she work? Did you guys just hear that? I thought I heard something with the speakers. Oh, they sound okay. Look at that dodgy start and select. Oh my god, look at that. Look how dodgy they are. Can you guys hear that with the speakers? Oh, that's not good, is it? Oh dear, Joey. Look at the start and select, man. Look how flat they are. That's not good. Speakers have stopped making a noise, but I guess, yeah, I mean, look at start and select, man. Start and select absolutely screwed. I don't know what that is. I don't think I put them in the wrong way. I'm gonna have to take a look at that off camera, but they're so flat. I don't know why. Everything else is fine. I'm gonna put one in the bottom, one on the top, just to make sure they both work. Good thing is that it works. I just need to, maybe I'll put these, I don't think I put them in the wrong way, but I must have, because they're so loose. Oh. Okay, so actually turns out that the games don't register for whatever reason. Now, me being the idiot that I am, I didn't test this board. I didn't test this board before I put it together. So I didn't think, oh yeah, I'll check it and see if the thing, I put a W on the back to say that it's working, but I think that was more for, oh okay, there we go. Well, Mario Kart seems to load. And I'm assuming it plays. Maybe it just needed a good, there we go. A little bit of IPA is probably going to solidify the fact that it's going to work. Now what about the other one? So this is actually a fake copy of Pokemon Leaf Green. No, there we go. Now I just need a little bit of a blow. There we go. Alright. The speakers seem fine as well. Like, they were rattling. Did you hear them rattling? I mean, they work. Right, let's just give this a quick clean over, shall we? Now Joey, don't mess this part up. Perfect sticker placement. Lovely, jubbly. If you have made it this far to the video, I appreciate your faces so much. If you did enjoy it, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content from myself, and leave a comment down below with some feedback. Now, hold on. This Nintendo DS Lite, that's kind of, the speakers are a little bit skew with. The bottom cartridge works and the Nintendo DS Lite cartridge works, and it's a fairly nice looking Nintendo DS Lite in my opinion. I'm going to be giving this away to someone anywhere in the world. This is the first giveaway that I've done, so as a gift, this is the first one that I've done to anywhere. International, we're going international. I'm pretty sure I can send like lithium batteries and stuff when they're inside the Nintendo DS Lite, and I'll just put it in a little parcel. The reason behind this is that when I started this in February, you don't know where to start, and if I could just send this to one person and that person can potentially put a mod on it, or you know, change out the speakers, or learn to solder the speakers at the top screen, or do whatever, change the casing, like it doesn't matter, then that is like, that makes me very, very happy. So if you are wanting a Nintendo DS Lite, follow these 3 simple steps. Subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter, and join my Discord. The only other thing that I'm going to ask you to do is leave a comment in the YouTube video with your Discord name and your Twitter name. Just by following those simple steps, you could have yourself a Nintendo DS Lite to practice on if you wanted to. It kind of ties in nicely as well with the fact that I managed to get 1,000 subscribers. I'm not going to advertise this giveaway because whoever has got to the end of this video truly deserves it. I'll be in contact with you via Twitter. My Twitter handle is joeydoestech, and what I'll probably do is just leave this up for a week or so, and then I'll announce the winner in next Saturday's video. I'll probably have a video coming out in the week, but I'm going to leave it until next Saturday just to give people enough chance to enter. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.